For more, we turn to our own Philip Turle. Interesting to hear what Luke was saying, how Russians on social media are of two minds as to what's going on inside of Ukraine.
Well, I think this is all part of a worst case nightmare scenario for Vladimir Putin. First of all, because of this attack against this military base in the Donetsk region. They've been trying to downplay it, as we've been hearing. 63 casualties coming from the Russians, 400 earlier today coming from the Ukrainians. It's all part of the war of words, all part of trying to keep control of the media. The higher the death toll for the Ukrainians, the better it is, and because they think that's going to undermine Russian morale. The Russians can't obviously admit the 400 soldiers were killed, because that's certainly going to have that effect on Russia. And Russia's supposed to be vowing to beat the Ukrainians and to win the war, which everybody knows from the West doesn't seem to be the case right now. So that is the first point. Second point is this shows that the weaponry which has been supplied by the United States is working. There is no way that the Ukrainians would be able to launch this kind of attack if they hadn't received these HIMARS missile launchers, which President Biden agreed to send. The first one got there back in June. They've now got about 18, but there are more on the way. And they have a much wider range when it comes to firing missiles, a much more exact way of firing them in. And we've seen it also with the shooting down of these Iranian drones, which Lucas Schrager was just talking about. These 39 Iranian Shahed drones being fired into Ukraine. The problem for Vladimir Putin is that he is running out of munitions. And as we've been seeing in the last few days, he's been turning his attention to China to try to bring China on board to supply Russia with more weaponry. He's also looking at North Korea as a possible partner for more missiles and weaponry to help win the war in Ukraine. But it's a serious problem for Vladimir Putin right now, and he really doesn't need this kind of news coming through that dozens, if not hundreds, of not even professional soldiers in Russia have been killed in an attack on a Russian military base in Donetsk, which is one of the provinces under Russian control.
Yeah, the numbers of casualties seem very high indeed. Philip, a new year means it's time to take stock. If you're looking at where Russia's lifeline is, it's in oil and gas. It made big profits last year because prices surged. But Gazprom this Monday stating that the amounts being exported are down.
Well, if Vladimir Putin wanted more bad reading to land on his desk at the Kremlin, I think this could also be it. I'll give you some figures just to put this into context. This is the lowest level the gas prices have been since before the war started in Ukraine. They went up to 345 euros per megawatt hour in March. They might remain pretty high up until August. They've gone shooting downwards in the past few days. We're now at 73 euros, 345 euros down to 73 euros per megawatt hour, which means that there's less money going into the state coffers in Russia because Gazprom's not selling as much gas. And when it does sell it, it's selling it much cheaper. The reason for this is twofold. The Russian gas, the European gas supplies are pretty high right now, so they don't need to import more gas. And there is a big mild weather period in Europe right now, which means that people aren't heating their homes so much, and they're not consuming so much gas, and that brings the price down. What is the reaction of this for Russia is that Russia needs that income from gas to finance the war in Ukraine. If it can't bring in the money because the Europeans aren't buying that gas and have got enough gas to get by on for the moment, then that's going to undermine Russia's ability to buy weapons. What can Vladimir Putin do? There are 2 points, two things he can do. The first one is that he can cut down on those gas supplies. That will bring the price back up again. And the other thing he could do to try to remedy the situation for the Russians is to supply more gas to maybe one European country than to another one, to try to create some kind of disagreement between European countries about who's getting gas and what they're paying for it. And that could also help him to try to boost gas prices. But it's still not an easy situation for the Russian president.
Philip Turle, many thanks.